Welcome to presentation of psycholinguistics entitled Grammatical Specific Language Impairment, presented by Nikade Dewi Ariantini, Niketut Agustin Sri Anggreni, Made Bella Anjani Pratiwi.
The first material is about theoretical foundations. SLI, or specific language impairment, is an impaired acquisition of language in children. SLI is a disorder of language acquisition in children in the absence of any obvious language-independent cause, such as hearing loss, low nonverbal IQ, motor difficulties, or neurological damage. SLI is one of the most common developmental disorders, affecting around 7% of children in its pure form, and the prevalence is even greater when children with co-occurring impairments are included. Familial SLI is characterized by not only impairments in language components, most notably morphosyntax, morphology, phonology, as well as the lexicon, but also outside the language system. Specifically, the impairment family members have an oral dyspraxia concerning problems in motor programming of fine articulatory movements for speech sounds. In this context, we now consider the two predominant approaches to the cognitive origins of SLI that can be broadly characterized as the domain general and domain specific perspectives. Domain general, or DG, deficit proponents identify the primary deficit in general cognitive mechanisms such as temporal discrimination, lower-level sensory processing speed, processing capacity, and short-term memory. These deficits are considered to impair auditory processing of non-speech and speech sounds, or alternatively memory and or general learning. The resulting phonological deficit in turn causes problems in language learning. The second is domain-specific, or DS. Deficit proponents, in contrast, claims that in some children the deficit affects the development of natural circuitry underlying the components of grammar. Specifically, the CGC claims that the deficit is in hierarchical structural knowledge that is core to the computational grammar system. This working hypothesis emphasizes the notion that impairments in syntax, morphology, and phonology are functionally autonomous but cumulative in their effects. Based on this component of language impairments, the CGC predicts that there is no causal relation between lower-level auditory abilities or short-term memory abilities and grammatical development, although these abilities, as with typically developing children, contribute to general language performance. We will now consider the CGC in more detail with respect to each of the three impaired grammatical components, syntax, morphology, and phonology, and present the evidence that the impairment in the GSLI subgroup is domain-specific. Enggak. The CGC claims The CGC claims that the deficit in hierarchical structure is characterized by impairment in syntactic dependencies, specifically whereas dependencies within the phrase are preserved. Thus outside the phrase but within the clause are impaired. The impairment affects a large number of structures. For example, tense marking is impaired, resulting in errors such as "Yesterday I walked to school." Such errors have been eloquently described and explored by Wechsler and Rice and colleagues and have led them to claim that this extended optional infinitive phrase is the primary environment within syntax. However, the CGC claims that at least for the GSLI subgroup, their environment with syntactic dependencies also affect assignment of data roles, particularly when more general pragmatic and word knowledge is not available to facilitate interpretation, such as in reversible passive sentences. The man was eaten by the fish, or when assigning reference to pronouns or anapors within as well as embedded sentence. The nature of GSLI children's syntactic deficits is clearly illustrated in a series of studies of WHEIS questions. Object metrics and embedded questions are particularly problematic in English because the WHEIS word has to move from the end of the sentence to the beginning, and do support requires checking of tense and question features. Thus, GSLI children produce questions such as "Who you see someone?" and judge such sentences to be. They also make copying error of the WH word in embedded question as in 1. This pattern is sometimes found in young children, suggesting that such structures are syntactically simpler and easier. Who did you think who Mary saw? Furthermore, using a cross-modal primary paradigm, we found that GSLI children show no reactivation at the gap marked by T in 2 in preposition object questions in scenarios such as to in contrast to age and language match control groups. Second, Baloo gives a long carrot to the rabbit. Who did Baloo give the long carrot to T1 at the farm? However, we found reactivation of the GSLI children at the offset of the verb, where subcategorized sub-arguments might be active, suggesting that in contrast to their peers they were using semantic lexical processing rather than syntactic processing. The particular syntactic violation we were interested in concerned structural syntactic dependencies at the clause level such as those that occurs between a question word, who, what, and the word which in declarative sentences follows the verb, but typically is absent in questions. For example, the first one is, who did the man push the clown into? This is the violation. And then the second one is, what did the man push the clown into? This is the control. It can be concluded that GSLI show a consistent impairment in syntactic dependencies outside the phrase but within the clause, which are manifest across a broad range of structures. The second material is about morphology. Within the morphology components, the CGC hypothesized a hierarchical deficit that impacts on morphologically complex forms. Thus, over and above the syntactic deficits that affect both irregular and regular tense marking, regular forms are particularly problematic for children with GSLI. For the example, every day I walk to school. Yesterday I blah blah blah. Furthermore, individuals with GSLI show a typical pattern of frequency effects for both irregular and regular past tense forms. The words and rules model of past tense forms parsimonious explanation for this data. For typically developing children, irregular, morphologically simple forms are stored, which leads to frequency effects, whereas regular, morphologically complex forms are computed online and shown frequency effects. Grammar-specific language impairment, or GSLI, affects the hierarchical structure in syntax and morphology, so it affects hierarchical structures in phonology. Certain aspects of phonological structure cause difficulty for children with GSLI. Certain aspects of phonological structure cause difficulty for children with GSLI. Children with GSLI have clear and fluent speech and are intelligible for non-words. Their phonological deficit manifests as a difficulty with forms that are complex at the syllable and foot levels of the prosodic hierarchy. In a non-word repetition task, GSLI children simplify consonant clusters in all word positions, while unfolded syllables are deleted or cause syllabic simplification and segmental changes elsewhere in the word. Furthermore, systematically increasing the complexity of phonological structure resulted in a systematic increase in errors, regardless of the number of syllables, indicating that it is not just the length of phonological material to be retained in phonological short-term memory that is relevant to repetition accuracy, but the arrangement of that material in the prosodic hierarchy. Even monosyllabic non-words with two clusters were more difficult for GSLI children than those with one cluster, and for dissyllabic non-words, a marked initial weak syllable caused weak strong forms to be more difficult than strong weak forms.
Deficit is in representing linguistic structural complexity in three components of the computational grammatical system. Those are syntax, morphology, and phonology. Deficit in this component impact on a variety of linguistic construction as a function on their syntactic, morphological, and phonological complexity. GSLI children were less likely to inflect stems when the suffix forms would end in a consonant cluster. For the example, jump and huge, compared to when no cluster would result, for the example, wake. Furthermore, stem ending in a cluster such as jam were less likely to be suffixed than stem ending in a single consonant, such as hug. According to Marshall and van der Lely, 2007a, morphological and phonological deficit impact even on an aspect of language that is not traditionally noted as being problematic for English-speaking children with SLY derivational morphology. There are two types of derivative forms. First, adjectives and derived from nouns by definition of one. The example, saint becomes sandy and rock becomes rocky. The second is comparative and superlative adjective. The example, happy become happier and become happier. In the former case, the stimulus was either a singular or a regular plural noun, while in the latter, the adjectival stem was either one or two syllables long. GSLI children almost invariably supply the Y, R, and S suffix. Some GSLI children included S inside Y when presented with a plural stimulus, producing forms such as Holesy, Roxy, and Frilsy, whereas typically developing children very rarely did so, like Holly, Rocky, and Frilly. In forming comparative and superlative adjectives, both GSLI and typically developing children reduce three-syllable outputs, for the example like happier and nervous, to two-syllable output. One possibility is that an auditory deficit causes and maintains the grammatical impairment found in GSLI. Evidence of subtle auditory deficit could conflict with domain-specific hypotheses and instead support domain-general perspective. However, neither behavioral nor electrophysiological data have revealed any consistent auditory deficit in individuals with GSLI that is independent of their language deficit. First, we explored GSLI children's auditory perception for speech and non-speech sounds at varying presentation rates and controlling for the effects of age and language on performance. Here, the group analysis show that mean thresholds for the GSLI group were never worse than those obtained for the 2-hour language control group, but were higher in both backward and simultaneous masking compared to age-matched control. However, more than half of the GSLI group were within normal limits for all thresholds. Furthermore, the GSLI children consistently evince no relationship between their auditory and phonological or grammatical abilities. A further possibility is that a more sensitive measure might identify an impairment. In addition, the elicit a letter P300 components that reflects attentional control processes to detect and categorize a specific event. We discovered that children with GSLI have age-appropriate waveforms for the N100 and P200, and the P300 components such as latency, amplitude, distribution on the scope. Our result revealed that GSLI children have normal auditory processing during the discrimination of peer tone. These findings, along with those investigating nonverbal cognitive abilities, thought to possibly co-occur with but not cause SLI or GSLI, are consistent with a number of other researchers in the field investigating other SLI subgroups. Auditory and nonverbal deficits are more prevalent in the SLI population than in typically developing population, but no consistent nonverbal deficit has yet been found to co-occur or cause any form of SLI. This of course, doesn't mean that such deficits, when they do co-occur, don't have an impact on language development. It is likely that they do to some extent. CGC model has led to clear prediction respect to precisely those structures in syntax, morphology, and also phonology. The model provides a parsimonious explanation for the pattern of impairment in GSLI, cumulative effects of component deficit, alongside compensation by components that potentially function normally. Although the CGC model was originally developed to account for GSLI, the component nature of this model and the detail within the grammatical components enables it to be applied to other forms of SLI. For the example, the model predicts that an auditory speech deficit will impact on phonology, specifically at the segmental level, due to mapping relation between the two and thereby impact on language. The CGC differs from domain general perspective in this respect, and it's of course an empirical issue. However, the specification of the CGC goes some way to helping understand how different components can affect language processing and performance. There is still much to understand about the role of mapping relation between components in normal and impaired acquisition, but we hope that this model will contribute to clarifying this relation.
Okay, that is all about the grammatical specific language impairment. Thank you.